If she makes you feel small, constantly apologizing, or always trying to be good enough in her eyes, then maybe you're not in love, you're being controlled. Real love makes a man stronger, not doubtful of his own worth. The problem is, most men only realize it when it's already too late. In this video, I'll help you recognize the 6 most dangerous red flags of a toxic woman ranked from the most destructive to the most subtle, so you'll know when to stop before she takes away the most precious thing you have, your peace of mind. There's a moment every man who has ever loved fears to face. The moment he realizes that the love he's given wholeheartedly is no longer reflected back. Betrayal doesn't strike like lightning. It arrives quietly when her replies become shorter, when her eyes start to avoid yours, when your heart begins to feel cold, but your mind still tries to deny it. And then, one day, the truth shows itself. Everything collapses in an instant, not only because she betrayed you, but because you realize the person you trusted the most is the one who made you question the entire world. Cheating isn't a mistake, it's a decision. Betrayal isn't an accident, it's a conscious choice. No one accidentally breaks trust. They have to cross small boundaries, one by one, pass every chance to stop, and still continue. Each time they do, they make a choice to prioritize their own emotions over loyalty, to choose momentary pleasure over lasting connection. That's no longer a mistake, it's intention. When a man is betrayed, he doesn't just lose the woman he loves, he loses part of his faith in himself. Because deep down, he once believed I'm good enough to be treated with honesty. But betrayal shatters that belief, making him wonder, where did I go wrong? What did I lack? That's when the pain cuts deepest, not because she was with someone else, but because you start doubting your own worth. But this is where a man needs to wake up. Betrayal doesn't define you, it exposes who she really is. Many men seek revenge, trying to prove they're strong, that they're not weak. But you don't need to do that, because silence is the most powerful response. When you walk away quietly, you're not just leaving a relationship, you're reclaiming your dignity. Every outburst, every accusation, only makes you look like the one still attached. But silence is the mark of someone who understands that once trust is broken, every explanation becomes meaningless. Many men confuse forgiveness with self-deprecation. Forgiveness is letting go of hatred so you can move forward. But going back to someone who betrayed you means accepting that your trust no longer has value. The difference lies here. A man who walks away does so not because he's cold, but because he's learned the lesson. He understands that true love doesn't come from the fear of being alone, it comes from self-respect. She might lose you because of a mistake, but you only truly lose yourself if you stay. When a woman dares to betray, she's chosen her own path, and you should choose yours. No need for blessings, no need for closure, no need for a beautiful ending. Because sometimes, the most beautiful ending is the silence of someone who finally understands. In this world, anyone can make mistakes, but not everyone can betray. Betrayal requires a twisted kind of courage, the willingness to destroy someone's trust to satisfy yourself. And a mature man understands this. She's not someone you need to fix. She's someone you need to leave. So remember this. Walking away doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. Leaving doesn't make you heartless. It makes you awake. Because a strong man isn't the one who endures betrayal, but the one who's brave enough to walk away from where his heart no longer belongs. After a man overcomes the pain of betrayal, he often believes he's finally clear-headed enough to recognize every kind of hurt. But there's a form of toxicity even more insidious than betrayal, one that doesn't hurt you right away, but slowly wears you down. Not through lies, but through emotions. And that's when you step into a game most men don't even realize they're playing, being controlled by the very feelings they crave. She knows exactly when you're vulnerable, when you need closeness, when you long to feel loved. She gives you that warmth, that sense of being desired, only to withdraw it the moment you start asserting yourself. Every time you try to stand your ground, she retreats, goes silent, and somehow makes you apologize for something you didn't even do wrong. She makes you believe that, to keep her love, you have to be more understanding, softer, more accommodating. But the truth is, she's not looking for harmony, she's looking for power. When intimacy becomes a tool of control, a man slowly loses his strength. He starts living in a state of constant tension, afraid of making her angry, afraid of her coldness, afraid of losing that warmth he once had. And then he confuses things. He begins to think sex is proof of love, that as long as she holds him, everything's fine. But in reality, that's just how she resets her control. A hug no longer means connection. It's simply a reward for obedience. Men often say they're strong, yet when emotionally manipulated, most become weaker than ever. Because what's being touched isn't their logic, it's their deepest need to be loved and validated. And that's what keeps so many men trapped in unhealthy relationships, convincing themselves she's just being sensitive. But the truth is, every time you give in out of fear of losing her, you're actually losing yourself. A woman who truly loves you wants you to be stronger, wants you to be yourself. But one who uses emotions to manipulate only wants you to be predictable and compliant. She doesn't need you. She needs the power that comes from making you melt. Watch closely, she's only sweet when she wants something. When you please her, she returns to being gentle, as if nothing ever happened. But the moment you set a boundary, she freezes, withdraws all affection as if you just committed a crime. That's not love. That's emotional conditioning, and you, whether you realize it or not, are being turned into a puppet. Real love doesn't require you to lose yourself to keep it. It doesn't demand that you always follow someone else's script. A good woman wants you to be confident, not obedient. Because love isn't a reward for compliance, it's a connection between two free people. If you're in a relationship where affection always comes with conditions, if you do this, I'll love you. If you don't agree, I'll go cold. Then that's no longer love. It's an emotional transaction, and every transaction has a price. A wise man must learn to distinguish between connection and dependence. Don't let emotional deprivation make you cling to brief moments of intimacy like a thirsty man in the desert. Because she's not giving you life, she's giving you just enough drops to keep you from leaving. When you finally stop, stay silent, and look deeply, you'll see what you've been calling love is really just the fear of being abandoned, and what she truly wants is not you, but the feeling of controlling you. Love is not a reward for obedience. The more self-respect a man has, the more valuable his love becomes. And if you have to lose yourself just to keep someone around, then what you're holding on to isn't her, it's the illusion that you're still being loved. After realizing he's been emotionally manipulated, many men think the lesson is over. But in truth, that's only the first half of the story. Because there's a type of woman even more dangerous. She doesn't need to control your emotions. She only needs to do one thing, make you forget who you are. And that's when you meet the dream killer, the woman who doesn't destroy you through betrayal, but by pulling you away from your goals and draining your sense of direction. She doesn't want a leader. She wants someone who's always available. When you're busy chasing your dreams, she calls it neglect. When you focus on improving yourself, she says you've changed. She treats your attention like a privilege, and when it's not fully hers, she makes you feel guilty, as if trying to become a better man is somehow a form of betrayal. That's how she controls you without shouting or anger, simply by planting the idea in your head that this love is fading because you're too focused on yourself. And so, you begin to hold yourself back. You delay your plans, abandon your passions, and trade your energy just to keep the relationship alive without realizing that doing so is exactly what makes her lose interest. Because women don't leave men for being too busy. They leave when he stops moving forward. A man without purpose is a lamp that's gone out, and the very light that once drew her in disappears by her own doing. She doesn't want a guide, she wants a follower. She fears you becoming greater, stronger, freer, because then she loses control. So she keeps you just enough, just loving enough, just caring enough, just weak enough to always need her. But real love cannot grow from the fear of losing power. If she cannot accept your journey of growth, she doesn't deserve to walk beside you on it. Many men lose themselves in relationships not because they're weak, but because they believe sacrifice is proof of love. But love doesn't need proof, it needs respect. A woman who truly loves you will encourage your conquests, not make you feel guilty for trying. If you've ever heard the words "you've changed" simply because you're moving forward, then maybe what she's really saying is, you're no longer easy to control, and that is not a sign of love, it's a red flag. She can make you feel at peace when you're weak, but she'll always grow uncomfortable when you're strong, because she doesn't want you to be a grounded man. She wants you to be the obedient boy who always comes back when she calls. But men were not born to be restrained. Your purpose doesn't end when you fall in love. If love forces you to stop, then it's no longer love, It's a cage. Remember this. You don't lose her because you work too much. You lose her when you stop growing, stop dreaming, stop fighting for yourself. A woman who truly loves you will be proud to see you fly higher, not threatened by your wings. So if someone makes you choose between your dreams and your love, the answer is already clear. Because true love will never ask you to abandon the very path that shapes who you are. When a man starts to regain his sense of direction, he often thinks he's finally free from all manipulation. He believes that as long as he stays focused and confident, no one can pull him down again. But then, he meets another kind of woman, one who doesn't destroy your dreams, doesn't stop your success, but makes you doubt your own emotions. And she does it not with anger, but with tears. She is the eternal victim, the woman who's always the victim in every story. She's never wrong, only hurt. She doesn't take accountability, she performs it. When you give feedback, she cries. When you set boundaries, she complains. When you try to speak clearly, she makes you feel cruel for saying such painful things. And so, you once strong and rational begin to soften and apologize even when you've done nothing wrong. That is the power of emotional manipulation. She makes you feel as if every mistake comes from you, that if only you loved her more, gave in a little more, everything would be fine. But the truth is, a little more is never enough. Because she's not seeking understanding, she's seeking the power that comes from being hurt. A woman like that uses sadness as a weapon. She turns weakness into control. Every time you try to speak the truth, she makes you feel guilty for hurting her. And slowly, you choose silence to keep the peace. But that's not peace. It's surrender. Because peace built on guilt never lasts. A relationship built on guilt will always collapse, because a man cannot carry both his own emotions and hers forever. The truth is, love doesn't need one person to be responsible for the other's happiness. Everyone must be able to stand firm within their own emotions. When she cries, you can comfort her, but you're not obligated to apologize for something that isn't your fault. Men often fear hurting the woman they love, but sometimes that very fear turns you into a hostage of her emotions, and while you're busy trying to keep her happy, you slowly lose yourself. A mature man must learn to see through the tears to distinguish between genuine pain and manipulation in disguise. Because a woman may cry to soften your heart, but a wise man knows this true love never requires you to feel guilty in order to prove your devotion. After going through a relationship filled with tears and guilt, many men believe that with enough patience and kindness, they can preserve peace. But the truth is, love cannot exist without boundaries. And when you meet a woman who constantly tests those boundaries, it's not because she doesn't understand. It's because she's testing how weak you are. That's the boundary breaker, the kind of woman who doesn't attack with words, but with small, subtle, continuous actions. She makes promises, then breaks them, says one thing, then does another, or deliberately touches the very things you once said were off limits. At first, you overlook it thinking, it's no big deal. But it's through those small things that she discovers something far greater, whether or not you're capable of protecting yourself. She's not confused. She's testing you. She isn't lost. She's evaluating your strength. And every time you stay silent just to keep the peace, she loses another piece of respect for you. She doesn't need you to be perfect, but she needs to see that you have a spine. A man who doesn't know how to say enough will soon be disrespected, no matter how much he loves her. Deep down, women don't truly want a man who only pleases them. They want a man who makes them feel safe, and safety only exists where boundaries do. A man who sets no limits will always be swept into a cycle of control, where every kind act he gives eventually becomes an obligation. Pay attention, she tests you not to hurt you, but to measure your strength. When she speaks disrespectfully, when she pushes the limits, your response determines how she will see you forever. If you bend, she knows you're easy to shape. If you stand firm, she knows she's standing next to a real man. The truth is, love doesn't require you to control anyone, but it does demand that you control yourself. Because a man without boundaries will always be led by someone else's emotions, and eventually lose the self-respect that real love depends on. Don't be afraid of losing someone because you said no. Be afraid of losing yourself because you always say yes. Because once you let someone cross your boundaries without stopping them, they'll never step back. And at that point, you're no longer loved, you're being used. After having their boundaries tested, many men believe they've seen through every kind of manipulation. But there's another kind more subtle, harder to detect because it doesn't come from conflict, but from sweet affection. At first, she makes you feel wanted, appreciated, and you gladly give money, time, and attention. But slowly, you realize this love only works when you pay for it. That's the love buyer, the woman who turns affection into a transaction. Her smile appears only when you spend. Her warmth surfaces when you buy her gifts. When you stop, it fades, and bit by bit she makes you believe that proving love means spending without limits. She doesn't need you, she needs what you bring. This isn't love anymore, it's an unspoken contract disguised as affection. If you really cared, you'd get me this. A phrase that sounds harmless, yet plants the seed of control. Once your emotions become tied to money, you stop loving with your heart and start loving with your wallet. And the tragedy is this: the more a man tries to prove his worth through material things, the more he loses his true value. Because in real love, presence is worth more than presence. A genuine woman is happy when you try, not when you pay. But the materialistic woman doesn't care about effort she measures in numbers. Today it's flowers, tomorrow it's a new bag. Love becomes a price tag, and when her demands exceed what you can give, that's when she's already preparing to leave, because someone who treats love as a transaction will always look for a better deal. True love never needs a credit card to survive. It needs an honest heart and someone who values it. A strong man isn't the one who spends the most, he's the one wise enough to recognize when love is no longer real. Remember this: a woman who truly loves you doesn't want more things, she wants more you. A woman who truly loves you doesn't crave possessions, she craves you, your presence, your attention, your energy, your essence. Because love isn't measured by price, it's proven by presence, by respect, and by how two people choose to hold on to each other, not by what you buy to make someone stay. After all the pain, trials, and lessons, there's one truth every man must finally see. She was never your destiny. She was your test. She's not your partner. She's your test. Every woman who walks into your life comes with a purpose to teach you something about value, about boundaries, and about self-respect. The way you respond to pain determines who you become. If you choose to hold on, you repeat the cycle. But if you choose to walk away in peace, you've just leveled up beyond who you were. ChatGPT Jan Noy. Look back, she didn't destroy you. She forced you to wake up. And the moment you put down your phone, step out of that dark room, is when you start to see the first light. The light of a man who finally understands that peace doesn't come from holding someone close, but from knowing he deserves something better. When the final light cuts through the darkness, the man realizes not every love is meant to be kept. Some people walk into your life not to stay, but to teach you when it's time to let go. And sometimes, walking away isn't failure, it's silent growth. Real love doesn't drain you. It challenges you to grow without threatening your peace. True love doesn't exhaust you. It strengthens you without taking away your inner calm. When it's time to leave, do it gently without resentment, without explanation. Because walking away from chaos doesn't make you cold, it makes you healed. And if these words reach you, brother, remember this, subscribe to the channel, because every man deserves to know the truth before he gives away his heart.